Today is September the 20th. Why did Jonathan help David? Let's find out together as we study 1 Samuel 19 to 23. In 1 Samuel 19 to 23, David has become a part of Saul's household. He is now married to Saul's daughter, but Saul is still jealous of David. And here for the first time in chapter 19, Saul, when David is one day playing his harp because Saul is depressed, possibly suffering from fits of outrage, Saul picks up a spear and throws it at David, tries to kill him. David runs away. He goes home. He finds his wife, Michal, and to sneak away, he puts an idol in his bed, a man-shaped idol, and then he puts goat hair, red goat hair, on top, so it looks like David is sleeping there. David then runs away. Saul's fits are apparently outbursts of anger, outbursts in which Saul practically completely loses control. At the end of chapter 19, he goes to Samuel looking for Saul, and when he finds Samuel, he begins to prophesy just like he did early in the book of 1 Samuel. Again, he loses control of his body. He lies shaking all night long. Now in chapter 20, Jonathan decides to help David. He loves David. They have a very close friendship. David said it's a festival of the new moon coming up. Usually I sit at the king's table. I'm not going to do that. I'm afraid that Saul will kill me. Jonathan says, oh, no, he won't. Let me find out. Jonathan goes in to talk to his father about David. And Saul is so enraged that Jonathan loves David that he actually tries to kill Jonathan, his own son, by throwing a spear at him. Jonathan goes out, tells David. David actually sneaks off. In chapter 21, he goes towards Philistine territory. On the way there, he stops at the temple. The temple is not in Jerusalem. It's not in the capital city. It's probably in Shechem. He stops at the temple on his way to the Philistine territory. He says, we're hungry. Do you have anything to eat? The priest gives him bread from the temple, and then he gives him Goliath's sword. If you look back at the description of Goliath, Goliath wore bronze helmet, bronze mail, bronze leggings, but he had an iron spearhead. And although it doesn't say, it's more than likely an iron sword. This is the very start of the Iron Age. Iron weapons were not common. It was a new technology. Goliath's sword would be an incredible weapon in the hands of whoever held it. Ahimelech gives David Goliath's sword. He runs from Saul. In chapter 22, Saul chases after David, and he finds out that Ahimelech helped David by giving him food and Goliath's sword. And so he has Ahimelech killed along with all of his family. In chapter 23, we have the starting pattern of what David does. David now lives among the Philistines. He attacks the Philistines. He's convinced them that because Saul is pursuing him, that he's a traitor to his country. but he's not. In essence, he's a double agent. He lives in Philistia, and he goes into Judean territory. Then he sneaks back over the line, captures a Philistine city, takes all of its people captive, kills the soldiers, and then goes back, says, look what we've won. He shows the booty from the victory and says this came from Israel, when actually it came from Philistia. David begins this pattern of fleeing Saul, living in Philistia while attacking the Philistines. Now we started by asking the question, why did Jonathan help David? If you'll look in chapter 23, verse 17, when David found Jonathan while fleeing from his father Saul, David says, I'm frightened of Saul. Jonathan says in verse 17, don't be afraid. My father will never find you. You're going to be the next king of Israel. I'll be next to you. Jonathan loved David. Jonathan was the crown prince. When his father Saul died, Jonathan would be the one to become king over all Israel. He said to David, God's called you. Jonathan recognizes God's hand over David. And so he tells David, I simply want to stand with God and with you. It's great to have friends like Jonathan, isn't it? Like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Email your questions to us at questions@becomehope.com. Tomorrow, we'll answer the question, what does it mean to bless the Lord?